going on, everybody? It's Matt with The Real Shot, bringing you the 2020 ice and landing reports. We are standing on Lake Poygan over here in the Winnebago area. I'm at the Duck Inn. This is one of the more popular landings that a lot of people use now. This is our first set of videos for the season just because the ice conditions have been a little bit sketchy going on for most of the season, meaning we get some cold temperatures and we get some warm-ups. We get a lot of snow, kind of helps insulate the snow or the ice, so on and so forth. So again, I'm at the Duck Inn. Looking out here, you just saw an Astro van go out there. Ice reports are really, really good. Anywhere from 12 to 14 inches of ice. But what's going on is, like you can see here, landings are really tough right now, meaning driving on the landings, they're rutted up. They just had a big fishery out here this weekend, had some warmer temperatures, some melt off, and it's causing big rut. So one of the biggest things that people have to realize is when you're using these landings, these are all public landings, try not to hit the landings at full speed. Ease into the landings until you get a ways out on the ice. What that does is, what people don't realize is when you hit these landings and when you're driving on it, you're making that ice shift a bunch underneath by the water, moving underneath the ice. So when that happens, it forces heaves, it forces unfavorable conditions for driving on. So try not to hit the landings at full speed. Creep out here, go at a moderate speed until you get out around the points or out a little bit further, and then you can open up your motor and go a little bit faster if you want. Here's a tire track from somebody. There's good solid ice underneath me, but there's standing water underneath this little bit of crust layer. So you hit something like that, you're gonna get your boots wet. So if you look way out there over my left shoulder, you can kind of see the faint shadows of vehicles. They're driving full-size vehicles out here, so that means there's plenty of ice. On to the next. We are headed over to Nafkis. I'm sure we're gonna probably find the same type of landing conditions over there. All right, here we are. We're at Nafkis Landing. You can see it right behind me. Again, very similar to what we saw over at the Duck Inn, except these guys, we talked about this last year so much. These guys take the time and they really do a great job of keeping their landing under awesome conditions. But even though they put hard work into their landing, they're saying with all the traffic that they're getting, I mean, there's probably 30, 40 cars here at times throughout the day. It's still making a little tougher conditions, and he's urging people to not go on the roads that he has made, which is kind of silly, but like Trevor's gonna show you some footage here in a little bit. The old road that he created with all the melt, it's all forming, it's sitting right in that pocket. And what it actually is doing is, you really won't notice it unless you look at it, it's forming holes. And I'm talking open water holes, meaning the hole started, the size of a pop can or bigger, and then it's actually gotten progressively bigger as the water runs in and out of it. So what he's saying is, don't use the old roads, use your own, make your own path, or use the new road that he has out here. Now, unlike the Duck Inn, they have a tree line out of here, out on Nafkis, and I'm gonna kind of walk around here, you can see this. Now, here's what we talked about with the gentleman from Nafkis is, with Sturgis being right around the corner, he goes, guys are still gonna come out here, obviously with Bago being, a little bit unsafe, that guys are still gonna come out here and they're gonna utilize this landing, and they're gonna, he's urging people, you're traveling at your own risk. Again, ice conditions for the most part, as you get further out, there's 12 to 14 inches of ice, but it's just a little unstable with your travel, meaning it's gonna be a bumpy ride. We filmed a couple of vehicles coming on and off. For the most part, they're traveling pretty nice, like this vehicle coming off my left shoulder, but most guys are using four-wheelers for the most part. So again, Nafkis is always a great landing. They do such a phenomenal job. When you go out here, you gotta drop $2 in the bucket to use the landing, which is, minimal for a nice conditions of landing. If he says if we get some warm up, it's gonna only benefit him because it's gonna smooth things off. It's gonna melt that snow layer down a little bit. Then he'll be able to get out here once the temperatures freeze a little bit and, smooth everything off with his plow and make the roads a lot easier to travel. All right, here we are standing on Lake Winnebago at the Merritt Street launches or drive-offs. There's only one gate that's open right now. Very minimal usage of this area right now. as we are standing here, there are some fresh tracks where people are walked out pulling a sled. And if you look over my right shoulder, about 2 miles out, you can see those people right there. And then there's another lone shack over there. Kind of no different than what we saw on Poigan. Biggest difference here is, again, we're not very far off the shore, and there's a lot of shoves, a lot of heaves, a lot of inconsistency to the ice just because of the high winds we've had. The warmer temperatures have kind of created a lot of heaves and shoves and everything like that. So what we're seeing out here on Lake Winnebago so far at the Merritt Street area is just a lot of foot traffic, a lot of quad traffic, and that's pretty much it so far. Like again, you can see there's a pretty good slush layer on top of good solid ice. But if you're gonna try to come out on Lake Winnebago, there's probably fish to be caught out here, but I would stick to foot traffic for sure for right now. All right, so we're over here at Asylum Bay. We are out of the bay a little ways. And what we got going on out here is, I just checked this hole. It's a fresh hole from somebody that was fishing it. There's about 9 inches in this hole, maybe 10 inches right here. We spoke to a gentleman who's a lot closer to shore. Out here, we're probably about 300 yards off the shore. The gentleman about 100 yards off the shore, and he had 12 plus inches up there. So if you watched a sunk and dive video from yesterday from Don on the 29th, today being the 30th, he had mentioned that there's about 4 to 5 inches where we just came from on Merritt Street, but you're seeing a lot of the same issues. It's a lot of foot traffic, it's a lot of ATV traffic right now because there's so much slush on top of the water. And we didn't break through as much over here. You can kind of see there's some snowmobile tracks right off my right hand shoulder, some sled tracks with an ATV. They're breaking through pretty easily, but they're only breaking through that top crust layer of that slush, you know, snow combination. There's good solid ice underneath it. Now when you get out quite a bit further, you know, the word is that the whole entire lake now is frozen over, which is great, but there's probably up to 5 to 6 inches out once you get out there a ways. But for the most part here in Asylum, good solid ice. There's plenty of fish underneath here. You just got to be a lot smarter than them and start catching them. But you know, Asylum's going to be a good spot here to come out, at least scratch the itch of wanting to get out ice fishing. With Otter Street coming up, you know, in the next weekend, sturgeon spearing coming up over the next couple weekends, you're probably going to see that restricted to a lot of ATV use if those guys and gals are actually going to get out. So Asylum Bay, in the Bay area, plenty enough ice for foot traffic, ATV traffic, plenty of fish underneath here. As you get out further, as everybody always says, ice is never 100% safe. So as you're coming out here, just be safe about it and travel at your own will, but bring a spud bar and hopefully have some fun. All right, so we are just about to leave Asylum Bay. Consensus is we dropped around and talked to a couple of guys out here fishing. Same thing, bays are locked up really tight. As you get out further, you run into that anywhere from, let's just say 2 to 6 inches of ice. So as you travel out beyond some of the bays, the cracks type stuff, where you're gonna have to use a little bit more caution. All traffic is restricted to ATV and foot traffic. There's no vehicles coming out here as of right now. The other thing I wanted to leave everybody with is we made some calls to the surrounding area, about a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour away from the store, to a couple of different bait shops, and got some ice report, fishing reports for you as well. So let's just recap what we talked to about some of those people. Shawnee Lake, we talked to Hacker's Bait Shop up there. Phenomenal bait shop, fully supplied, a lot of live bait, so on and so forth. He said the same things up there for the most part, really good ice conditions. It's just there's a lot of slush, so most of the travel up there is ATV style traffic. I think he said there's anywhere from 8 to 10 inches in isolated areas, more, a little less. And then we also reached out to Melchow's Bait Shop in Wild Rose area. A lot of those lakes, like the Coosa Lake Fishery, is this upcoming weekend, Super Bowl weekend. They said the same thing, 7 to 9 inches, snow and slush on top of the ice. You're probably gonna see a lot of vehicles parked on shore, if not near shore, for that fishery. That's Long Lake out there, there's Twin Lake, there's Pine Lake. All those other lakes where I live have good ice on them. There's fish being caught. So if you head over to the Melchos, they actually have an awesome contest going on as well. But as you head further away from the valley, Bago is probably the only lake right now that's just, you know, a little bit, you gotta use a lot of caution. Otherwise, most lakes around the surrounding area, Brillion, up further north you go, you're just gonna run into a lot of slush. So thanks everybody for watching the 2020, part 1 of the 2020 landing ice conditions. Make sure to stay tuned to our YouTube, our Facebook pages for more of these awesome videos. Out of here.